Three games in for most teams into the NBA season. And what are we at in hockey? 7, 8 games in. So something been on my mind this week, prepping for this pod, is how can we have any confidence in like a premature take versus no, this is like a take that's going to be relevant for the whole season. A lot of teams projected to not do well, or projected to try and tank, doing flawless, and a couple teams we projected to do pretty well, coming out the gate very, very flat. One in particular we'll get to. Do you have any method for, as you're like looking at and having impressions like, nah, that's erroneous, or like this is going to be true all season?
I think it's a process thing. And it comes from watching sports for a number of years, because there's always going to be teams that surprise you, right? Like the Celtics were 500 deep into December, and then they made it to the NBA Finals. So it's hard to go extreme one way or the other, but there are things you can see that you're like, this is a stable thing that's been continuous from a previous season that's going to be in place, that you can reasonably predict moving forward. And I think I have that kind of set. I mean, like off the top, just a good take is that the Pelicans are going 75-7. Like that's not an overreaction.
Yeah. Riffing on what you said there, I'll give you two more examples from the start of the last season. The Wizards came out the number one team in the East, and the Warriors came out the number one team in the West.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizards didn't make the playoffs. The Warriors obviously won it all. There are two times where 3, 5 games in, you would have looked at what each team was doing, and if you gauged the same reaction, you would have been very, very right and very, very wrong, in two separate cases. I guess team identity and history and consistency, small thing, would have been the filter there you use to that would have gotten you the right answer.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to jump into, and one of the things we're going to look at and try and parse through while we talk about the first bit of the season here. I think it's best we start with the Toronto Raptors, just because they are the whole home team. They've started the season 1-2. Raptors feel very much in the same spot that they were last year, where it's a team that is not going to blow teams out every night. And it's not a team that's going to get blown out. They're going to play with tighter margins, less room for error, going to play a more chaotic style of basketball that leads to a lot of turnovers for both teams. And for the casual fan, probably not the most exciting thing, but I relish my team getting a defensive stop. So I've loved it so far. And there's things that they need to build and improve on. But really the biggest one for me to start the season is Pascal Siakam. Looks so awesome. He looks so awesome, building on all NBA third team last year. And he's off to a terrific start, and just the motor, he's grabbing rebounds at a high rate he's ever done in his career. And his game just, it doesn't look surprising when the basketball goes in anymore. Even like when he was on his run last year, whenever he shoot the mid range or the three or some of the layups he would make, it always was like, wow, that went in. But now you actually expect it to go in. And that's a proven track record of him scoring and being that established guy now for a number of years. So I've loved what I've seen so far from Pascal. That's kind of my high level one for the Raptors. Max, I don't know if you want to jump in here and add some notes.
So I've gotten to watch a lot of Tatum and Brown, who I don't know if you can say they're exactly like a Tatum is exactly the ceiling for Siakam. Like just the size and muscle mass difference is always going to create a different playing style. But the main thing for Siakam I'm seeing is I just want to see like a little more feel on like when he can power through the double team and score, and when he can knows to pass it out. The selection there is something I'm really high on for those two guys on the Celtics. That I like I said, I just saw the home opener, so in that one, I had a bit of dissatisfaction there, but I'm 100% on board with just the style of feel he's developing and the type of looks he wants to generate and how he free flows in his zone to create a shot at that mid-range level. I'm in love with that game, and I think it fits this team's playing style and identity so well. After the ups and downs over the last 3 years, this really does seem like the year where he could lock in as it's not a question that this is an all NBA guy and the franchise's number one option that we run the offense through. And loving to see that. Yeah, 3 games in, 1-2, Brooklyn, Miami, both good teams. Cleveland also, all 3 teams kind of in the same stratosphere, I'd say. Yeah, we win a tight one against the Cavs. We drop a tight one against the Nets. You had reservations for how this team was going to perform in the clutch time. So kind of 500 there, more data to collect before I have a hard opinion one way or the other.
Yeah, and still waiting on Porter and Birch to be full-time staples in this lineup, and then we'll really get a chance to see what this team can do in its full-fledged version.
Yeah, all the bench minutes feel pretty tough to watch right now, knowing we're skipping guys 7 and 8 in the rotation, and it's 1 through 6, 9, 10 or something on the court.
Yeah, exactly.
These next notes are from a game 5-6 days ago, so I'll go pretty briefly. But Suns fans get to rewrite history a little bit with the home opener win revenge against the Mavericks. I say they get to rewrite history because the first half looks like exactly where they left off Game 7 of the playoffs. The Mavs blow them up. I think they lead by 24 at one point before the Suns get it back down to 17. Somewhere in the third quarter, some foul trouble for the Mavericks, a bit of Chris Paul taking advantage of that, and a bit of DeAndre Ayton not being in foul trouble, a bit of Devin Booker and the role players also stepping up. And the Suns bring it back to within 1. Christian Wood goes on a 16-point run. I don't know if you saw any of that, but he was ridiculous. He hit a bank from 3, tried to play it off, and then took the next 3 pull up pure confidence and drained it. Some heat check moments on that run for him, but this guy they really were able to run the offense through him late in that third quarter with Luka on the bench and get great non-Luka minutes. With Luka on, the pick and fade, pick and roll option seems like exactly what they hoped for from Porzingis. They lose some size and still need to pick that up somewhere with him as a replacement. But he's doing a lot of what fans hoped Porzingis could do for this franchise. And if he buys in defensively to where Jason Kidd got the rest of the team, this is going to be a very, very good fit. And I think Mavericks fans should be really excited. The end of this game, though, pretty much all Suns. They bench Chris Paul. I haven't been following the Suns since this game, but no minutes for CP3 in the last 7-8. It's all campaign. Devin Booker and a bit of Damian Lee taking the ball up the floor. Booker, for most of those 5 minutes, doing all the heavy lifting. They just run a high screen and roll with Ayton and one more. They run it 3-4 times in the last few minutes, and Booker making the right read every time. Amazing floor generalship from him. And at the same time, as much as it was Booker running it, the Suns felt deep. They felt like whoever the ball got to, they could get a good look with in those last 5 minutes, where it felt like the Mavericks just needed Luka, which gets a lot done. He managed to still hold up, keep it tied. I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was ridiculous to get the lead. But Lee hit that contested mid-range fader after they doubled Booker on the last play, and the Suns get a very feel-good win there. Mostly the damn Booker looks like a really good floor general, and wow, Christian Wood might be a wonderful fit. My takes from this game.
Yeah, and I think Chris Paul is getting that rest because they're going to put him on a pitch count this season. Consistently, he has broken down in the playoffs, so they need to get him rested early on.
It's that, and he's at a level where you have to assess the performance game by game. He didn't do much offensively for this team other than the assist counts, but scoring wise, the touch wasn't there. So Monty Williams kind of putting him on notice. It's not a guaranteed start. If you're cold, we're not going to wait for you to heat up. We've got other guys we can plug in there.
Yeah.
So I think some synergy between those two ideas. Okay.
Awesome.
Friday night, the Heat versus Celtics was a really fun game. The Celtics, I'm going to talk about a bit as an overview. They're 3-0 to start the season after these game notes. But as a team, it felt like they had such an advantage throughout this whole game. Brown and Tatum had the size and the speed to attack and get anything they wanted anytime. And the Celtics team is like already where some teams need 50, 60 games to get to in terms of ball movement, one more pass, getting the open look once they have one man beat in the half court situations. But more turnovers keep the Heat in check. Some really bad foul trouble early in the third, and the Heat in the bonus pretty much throughout that quarter. Let the Miami catch it up, keep it close. Also of note, the plus minus for Bam Adebayo in this game was everything. When he was off, the Celtics dominated. When he was on, he was plus double digits, at least through three quarters. So when he gets in foul trouble late in the third, the Celtics were able to even it up again. And then this fourth quarter, I don't think NBA fans are going to get tired of saying it for a long, long time. Who said Brown and Tatum can't lead a team to stardom together? Throughout the first half of this fourth quarter, it's all Jaylen Brown. Just the shot, the drive, the kick, whatever he wants.
The handle looks a lot better compared to the finals. Yep.
And then the second he gets into foul trouble, it's all Jason Tatum. And I normally hate hero ball. If you take the drive and you get the double, you've won. You have good shooters on your team, kick it out. But Tatum just does it with such confidence. Even when he misses, he chases his own rebound. He has the strength. It's just so fun to watch. And he just anchored those last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter by himself. Every possession kept the Heat. I was so impressed. That was what they talk about when they talk about top 5 elite, top 3 level play. Watching those last few minutes against a really good defensive team in Miami. So 2 notes on the Celtics. One, I think the fact that Adebayo gave them so much trouble in the plus minus. We are overreacting a little to this team without Williams. Let's wait until they have a run against a bunch of teams with good, solid centers and see how they fare. The turnovers, the foul trouble were an issue last playoffs, something they've always had to work on and something that is going to bite them. So I'm as we said in our preview, there's some holes on this team that I think are going to be in trouble. But 2, I think Jason Tatum top 3 MVP votes this season.
Absolutely.
That one does not feel premature.
No, and it's the continuity of this team. And I think we've overrated how much value a coach has very early on here, because the new coach has stepped in and brought a lot of the same execution and has been willing to go to this small ball varying lineups really early on and rely on his top guys. And Malcolm Brogdon is new, but it seems like he's been playing for this team forever. He's such a smart player. He fits in right away. Touching on some other games here before we get to Max's play of the week, the New Orleans Pelicans start their season 2-0. The hype train is off the rails. It is runaway. Jump on now while you still have a chance. Zion is back and looks very physically imposing. He hasn't had that Zion game yet, but somehow finds a way to get to 20 points in both of these games, even though not looking as great in the Charlotte one. But they put on 72 on Brooklyn in the second half of that home opener. And just, we were talking about this off the podcast, but Zion, in comparison to an Embiid, another physically dominant player in the league, Zion has very obvious faults in his defense. Like, no one is saying he's a good defender. He's going to get blown by almost every time, and teams, when it gets down to it, are going to start attacking him more. But just offensively, the sets that they're running look so great. And they're running Zion handoffs for Ingram where he can short roll and dish it out. Or then it's opening up two of the best mid-range scorers in the NBA right now in McCollum and Ingram. And then this is a part where I think they're going to drop some games, but the first two games of the season are against teams without a true center. And Jonas Valanciunas has been the best player for that Pelicans team. 30 and 17 in the second game, but he's all over the glass. No one can move him. He's just a monster down there. And they have a ton of guys who can put the ball in the basket. And then Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado and Najee Marshall have been stitching things together on the defensive side so far. I was really impressed by their ability to create turnovers against the Brooklyn Nets team in that first game. And while the big names and the scoring is going to obviously bring the hype train up, it's their ability to stay connected as a defense that's going to lead to this regular season success. And I liked what I've seen early on. I don't think they're going to be near the top of the Western Conference here and as we go along. And the 75-7 thing was a joke, but really, really high on the potential of this team as Zion's only going to get better as the season goes along. Other notes here, Paolo Banchero looks like he's a 10-year vet. Can't wait to watch his games this year. Just so smooth and deceptively large. Was already a big player, but the comparisons to Carmelo Anthony are apt in the smoothness of his game, the ability to make reads already in his very first game. Well, he's been over 20 points so far in the first two, given not against like top teams.
Celtics?
Or they played Celtics in the second one. Sorry, I'm thinking Detroit. But his poster dunk on Corey Joseph was electric and maybe the dunk of the year in the first game. He just looks so polished, and I think we underrated how great of a first pick he actually is. Ja Morant, really, really fun and exciting. He had 49 the other night in the Grizzlies win and had the ceiling plays in overtime in their home opener against New York. And really his best two stats, despite all those points, were the two chase down blocks on Jalen Green. And then as well in the New York game, I forget who it was on, but he's just so phenomenal, exciting. And again, undervalued that what this Grizzly system has. Like Santi Aldama and John Conchar in their starting five, and they don't miss a step. Like they just throw guys out there and they're going to play great minutes. And Ja Morant's going to take this team over the top.
On that note, can you name the 5 starting players for the Spurs?
Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, I want to say not Bryn Forbes, Jakob Pertl is in there.
Yeah.
Is Eubanks starting?
I actually don't know either. I just think it's crazy that a team who's starting 5 neither of us can name just beat the 76ers.
Yeah, the Spurs, man. That is actually another story I want to talk about is the Spurs and the Jazz, two teams in the tankathon, have had great starts to their season because they have too many dudes who can play.
Yeah,
Like it's not like a OKC or a Houston or a Detroit of the past where they just throw out bums. Like Utah has Markkanen, Vanderbilt, Clarkson, Sexton, Walker Kessler, Olynyk, guys who have played pretty significant roles as role players in the past, but they're going to work hard and play ball. And Danny Ainge has got his work ahead of him to ship some of those guys out the door.
I mean, they make it pretty easy on him, putting attractive price tags on themselves with this play.
Yes.
Adam Silver with some comments, I think yesterday, about saying like we've talked to teams and told them no tanking. But like, what are they going to do? He said they've tried to talk about relegation, but it's literally impossible. I don't know what kind of penalties they can impose to make it not worth it to try and change your franchise for the next 15 years. I'm expecting half of this Jazz team to get shipped out before the trade deadline.
Yeah, some valuable assets out there. Last two notes from me. We're gonna wrap things up shortly. Damian Lillard is back to back 40 plus games. back-to-back 40-plus games, gets the Lakers to 0-3. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the Lakers on upcoming podcasts, believe me. And Giannis, of course, reimposing himself as well, 44 points on 81% shooting in his most recent outing. Yes, sir.
Love to see it. But that not my highlight of the week. My highlight of the week, Nikola Jokic earning the Denver Nuggets the win against the Golden State Warriors. I tried to write this down in my notes as specifically as I could because the score and the sequence is so important to how amazing this play was. So the Nuggets up 124 to 121 against the Warriors. The Warriors, I think, the Warriors just having gotten a bucket. So 3-point lead. The inbound comes to Bones Highland, who's expecting the foul, and instead a double team comes. So he's already dribbled himself into a corner, has the ball on his offhand. Jokic on the other side of the paint. Highland waits a couple seconds too long, tries to dribble out, doesn't have the space, goes for a bounce pass. As it comes through the middle of the paint, I think it was Jordan Poole, doesn't matter. It reads the pass, runs in, intercepts it before it gets to Jokic, puts the layup in. Suddenly, it's a 1-point lead for the Nuggets, who have to inbound the ball. They just missed free throws their last time up the line. All the momentum is going Warriors. This game went from almost in the bag to have the momentum going against you, and if you mess up this next sequence, you are going to lose. Jokic, without missing a beat, grabs the ball out of the basket, steps onto the free throw line. Tom Brady levels of quarterbackness in getting the ball 3/4 up the court and dropping it perfectly into Bruce Brown's hands, who has a wide open lane to the basket to dunk it and put his team up 126 to 123. This happens in less than 5 seconds, from the pass being thrown, intercepted into the basket to being in Jokic's hand. This situation goes from, I think the Nuggets just probably put themselves in a situation to lose the game, to having the game secured again with ridiculous quarterback levels of athleticism. The playmaking, one of my favorite parts of the game. This was beautiful to watch. And
Can we make him the quarterback of the Broncos, please?
But the fact that it basically won the game for the Nuggets, in my eyes, the 3/4 length of the court, perfect accuracy, the fact that it was a pass, and the decisiveness and instantaneousness with which it all happened. Play of the week, hands off to Nikola Jokic.
It's gonna do it for basketball.